are we recording? Yes, now we are. Note to self. Cool. All right, now we're recording. So I thought I would throw out a opening question today. Welcome, everyone. And I don't know, there's so many to choose from, but I think I'm going to go with this one. Okay, if you today had to go into the witness protection program, what identity would you like to assume? What would your cover be in the witness protection program? And I'm going to pass it around. You can get some good answers, I hope. David, do you want to kick us off?
Oh boy, I had two thoughts, and good morning, everybody, by the way. Glad to see everyone here. I think I'd go with PhD philosopher on tenure at a unnamed university, where I pontificate upon the deeper issues affecting our souls and our lives. All right. With that, I'll open the list here. How would I pass it to Meetup?
Thank you, David. Good morning. I would do racehorse rehab at some small farm in France. That would be my undercover, my witness protection, some nameless leg wrapper, and I'll pass to MS.
Thanks, man, very good. So I would be super unsuspecting deep in the wood. I would go like doing some type of just tactile job out in the middle of the wilderness, kind of like out there. I will pass it over to Gideon.
Thanks, MS. I think I would adopt the name Morpheus, and I would head over to some small beach town and try to fake my way into carpentry. I am going to pass to Satchel, and welcome, by the way.
We can hear you, Satchel. Oh, we were able to hear you for a moment there. Well, maybe we'll come back to you. I don't know if you heard the question, Vai, but it was, if you went into the witness protection program, what identity would you like to assume?
I would have a lot of ideas regarding this. One of them would be maybe librarian in some public library, but it's like out of the way. Another one might be like someone who's running like one of those EEV shops. Those are like circuit engineering shops, like they repair circuit boards, like somewhere out in the corner. That can be school, and at possible to Quantifiers.
Thanks, Vi. Well, first of all, I would hate if that happened, because like I was thinking, I really like just being myself and being able to like go out without being like afraid or something to reveal my identity. And if to, I don't know, I would just go to the beach somewhere near the beach, and I'll pass to them.
Well, I guess I would say it's a tough question, right? Because it's sort of like you'd have to disappear. Yeah. Like, where would I disappear to? Either someplace super crowded like New York or Tokyo, or some sort of like completely secluded place. And then how would I occupy my time? I liked the idea. I like Vai's idea of a library. I like the idea of maybe like a small bed and breakfast in some really remote location with a really fat bandwidth pipe. Like, I mean, that's all you really need when it comes down to it. So wherever it is, as long as it has bandwidth, I think I can make life anonymous work. And I'll pass to Satchel. Maybe we'll give you a try to see if your audio is working now.
Okay, is this working?
Yeah, we can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Sure.
You can. All right. I guess it would depend on why I was there, but if it was like serious, someone really was out to get me. If I could get a job, I would probably get it at the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway, which is like a super
cool.
secure vault which holds all the seeds in the world. Like a handful of people have access to it, but you get to see all the seeds in the world.
Cool, and I can pass it for you. Yunese, I don't think you've gone yet.
Okay. That's a really, really tough question for me. I don't know how to answer that. I think I'm in the right place to disappear. It's awful, yeah. It's awful. It's true. But it's the right place to disappear. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how to answer that. It's really difficult for me.
And where are you, Yunese? So for context.
Right now I'm in Venezuela, in Caracas City, so this is not a good place to disappear here. Everything happens here.
And I think Jean, you're the.
Yeah,
And I think Jean, you want to close us out.
Sure, I just a second ago we're saying what we would do if we wanted to disappear, is that right?
Well, the question is, if you had to go into the witness protection program tonight, what would you like your new identity for the rest of your life to be?
Let's take a look. I would want to be, if I was in the witness protection program, want to be a park ranger. Something remote and far away from everybody else. Maybe northern Canada or somewhere in rural Kenya. I hope I don't have to figure out the witness protection program.
Yeah, yeah. I think we can all agree on that. I think Juanca shared it best. I think we all like being us.
Yeah, good with me so far.
And welcome to Centralized SDGs. Nice to see you again. Wow, the audio is coming through very fast and squeaky. Oh, there it is. Okay. Cool. All right, thanks for that. That was fun. So the agenda was prepared by Eduardo before he got his super special treat with his parents. Oh, hey, Decentralized SDG, you're back. Your audio is coming through pretty funky. You want to try again?
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, good. Yeah, good to be here.
So our opening question was, if you went into the witness protection program tonight, what identity would you choose for yourself? Presumably for the rest of your life.
Witness protection tonight. I guess I would be like an aloof winemaker slash artist, and people just would have no understanding as to where that money came from or whatever. So, we just keep a little curiosity. I would just probably paint. I'm not very good. They wouldn't actually see the painting; they would just see me painting. So, it kind of keep the illusion alive. That'd be sort of my idea.
Cool. All right, excellent. Thanks for that. I feel like Meta and Decentralized are going to be joining me here in France. So we'll be making wine, painting, and taking care of horses. So MS, this quantifiers. Not 100% sure. Would you like to share with us quantifiers as it applies to Communitas? Or any news that you want to share on that front?
So just in general, I was speaking with Eduarda, and I've been meeting with Mitch and the rest of the rewards team about recruiting quantifiers as we're starting to ramp up the dashboard coming to life and everything there. And Mitch had recommended, because he knows that I do a lot on the Communitas side too, that we would love to offer that opportunity to anybody who's on this call and just in general. So anybody who doesn't know, the quantifiers role, it happens bi-weekly. All of the praise data that you see in Discord, as well as stuff that's going on with source cred, quantifiers actually look at all of that over a specific time period and help put together what rewards disbursements would be for each of those time periods. It's all anonymous, so you aren't actually seeing like who specifically you're reviewing praise on. But if that's something that you're interested in the reward system channel, there's a thread right now for calling all fires, and you can get more details there. Connect with Mitch if you're interested in participating in the webinar. So that was like the whole purpose, Tam, around that.
Cool, got it. And sorry,
I think you might be muted if you're talking still.
And I lost my my screen.
No worries.
Okay, cool, excellent. Do we happen to know how many quantifiers are needed and how many we have now? Is this something
So we had about 5 or 6 more people express interest recently for it, and we're looking to develop the pool to be pretty big, because the way it'll work is that there's always a quantifier pool, and each quantifier cycle we pull from the pool of quantifiers to actually perform quantification. I want to see how many times I can say quantify and say this. That's saying myself. So the idea though is that we can get the pool large enough that it's a healthy, true sample every period that goes unbiased results.
Cool. I did volunteer. Probably a few people in here volunteered to be quantifiers. So I would suggest if anyone else is more interested in it, what's the best place to get more information? Is it to hop on the reward system calling all quantifiers sub-thread? That looks like a pretty good place to go.
Yeah, and if I'll try to get a link there, but if you just go into reward system and click the threads in the upper right, you'll see it.
Okay, sweet, excellent. And would you mind quantifying the next agenda item for us?
Like that's going to be the thing now. We have to say it as much as we can. Yeah, so for the next item, and actually Gideon, if you want to hop into, we're actively going through the process of figuring out the structure and the framework of a member's life cycle from the moment they join through being a new member into being fully integrated and working in different working groups and interactions. And what we're trying to do is identify the key areas that need support through that process, and also just what happens, right? That's exactly what one of the goals is here. And the first step that we're taking at that, and Gideon and I have had a lot of conversation around this, and Tam, you and I have had a lot of conversations around this as well, is just figuring out the structure of that, like what are the steps at what intervals, and then almost creating like a backlog of things that would be in each of those. So that way we can start to create a working list of items that we need immediately to help facilitate that process, and then what we can kind of help to even evolve it over time after that. Does that make sense?
Certainly. It's particularly ideal. Yeah. I'm wondering about that. What is the best practice or best way to demonstrate good intention? Because I was greeting people kind of at the door for a little while and had to slip away because my mom got sick. But recently, I requested a damage started this morning actually, saying hello to people. But it would be great to have some intentional structure to follow to bring them to the right place and make sure that they're accounted for all the time.
Totally. And we have that first step too, Gene, of what we did with the welcome bot and everything. So that was a huge amount of that's really exciting to see that take shape, because it's already, I think, helping facilitate some direction. So it's how do we best support the rest of that discovery process now.
Yeah, that frames the way I address them from that data. So
Very cool. Yeah, and I think that's something I'm not sure who had unmuted, but if somebody had a point before they hopped in.
That was yeah. Oh, maybe there was somebody else.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, I think so. This is something I'm thinking about a lot right now because I think that we have an opportunity, not just TC, but like Web3 in general has an opportunity to like really rethink the way that people come in and work with organizations, and like it's like there's an opportunity to make this whole process just way fairer and way more open, and so I think that there's kind of like these short-term things that we just need to keep banging out and like making progress on, and I think that there's this kind of like bigger picture that I would love to see TEC be really good at, which is when somebody's coming in, that we have like really easy ways for them to engage and get traction that's like just like makes them feel good, and it helps us out, and like very concrete tasks that we can give them, but that we have some pathways for people to really grow over time. Like that's the thing that to me is super inspiring. It's just like this idea that we meet people where they're at, like help them to kind of step in and feel useful and feel like they're part of something bigger, but that they have like some pathways to develop, and then to like really start to do some trickier, more complex work, and have that kind of feed into our working groups. So I think part of this is like there's some things like that, and then it's like, what's our longer term vision about what we could actually be here? I just get really excited.
That was one of the analogies we were talking about, right? Gideon was like the whole video game analogy, where it's like when you first start out, you hit the tasks that are simple to really learn about the ecosystem and learn what's going on, and you keep doing these like level up and gaining XP to bring you to the next area. So that way, you get the sense of being able to, as somebody new going into this new area, which everybody is really welcoming, and if you jump into a conversation, there's a lot of resources there, but there's also, when you're new to a DAO, it's like going into a lunchroom for the first time at school, and you're in like a brand new school where you don't know anybody yet. You're like trying to figure out what tables to go introduce to and talk to and everything. And so I think any way that we can help facilitate that, so especially if you read articles like Gideon about just joining permissionless orgs in general and everything, and you start to do it, just having some progress there. And I didn't mean to cut you off though.
I think that's bang on. It's like there are great examples out there like bounties and things like that we can use, and I think that there are some other DAOs that are doing some really interesting stuff on this front. So yeah, I think part of this is just going to be kind of looking around at what other folks are doing, and then copying what's good and tweaking, adding on, doing our own stuff.
So I'm in full agreement with the conceptual that idea and inclusivity and ease of access and frictionless participation. And the idea of gamification is fun for people. It's good. The only caveat to those things would be that it's potentially possible to kind of scare people, I guess, with the scale of what it could be if there was like a demonstrated ranking system or something like that. Level up is good, and maybe it's ideal to obviously let people grow, but maybe not a demonstration of like scale one to another would be more ideal, as in like an equality type thing, just everybody in the same kind of group. But one aspect that I have seen and appreciated in lots of other places that we could certainly employ is a form of like opt-in roles, where you can give yourself a role by coming through the door, based on how you classify yourself. It's a little bit empowering to just be able to walk in and put a tag on yourself saying this is me, and have it be part of your Discord identity, so to speak. And so I think that would be a useful function for us to implement.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I think I completely agree with you too, Gene. I think it was more just the mental model of that leveling up that I was imagining. So almost like when you get in, you aren't thrown this huge, scary, really ambiguous task, right? But more like, oh, cool, there's something digestible I can hit. I can really learn more about the community and the ecosystem and keep growing in that way.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, that's perfect.
I think is centralized SPG still on here? I think they were mentioning something. I think they hopped off. Sorry.
Yeah, they hopped off. So
I have a question, and this is regarding the general structure we'd like to eventually achieve. Do we want like a more formalized structure, something that's say similar to how Bitcoin does onboarding, or do we want something that's more open and free flowing? Because I don't think there's a best way to approach it. It just depends on what's more applicable to our community. And like, I think gamification is really great, but I'm not sure if the context in token engineering commons can, it doesn't completely align with our values, especially like how it's kind of like getting you hooked up to level up, but like I think eventually we don't want some form of scale of comparison. Like even if you look at source cred, I think there was a document I read a while ago from I think Metagame had it, that's like addiction to source cred. That can also be a potential like downfall of gamification. But like it's more fun to have free flowing things. So one thing we could do is like we have a form of gamification, but we just don't rank anyone. And like we instead of like keeping it as level 1, level 2, level B, or anything that can be categorized, we just group people based on like how much how much they've been working with our like for example, if someone has voted X times, like we put them in a category. If someone has come to param parties, put them in a category. If someone has worked a lot for a working group, they put them in a category. And so this would be a lot more subjective. Maybe we can use phrase data somehow to do this sort of grouping. But it just means that we're not categorizing people on a, it's not a ladder they have to climb.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think I just want to make sure too from so the video game analogy was like just a mental model I'm using. It's not. I completely agree with the gamification, like actually having levels. Albeit put together some really interesting documents about somebody coming into the community and just learning, like getting their bearings on what's happening here. And we had a really good conversation. Actually, it was around the Mega Man tutorial. But like when you first enter a video game, you get like that playthrough of what to do and like the operating balance of how it works and where to go and what items exist and all of that. I think that's what ultimately I was shooting for. And then the conversation Giddy and I had was just how do we form like a meaningful structure or toolbox or wish list of different things that we would want. So I think the points that were brought up, Gene and Vi, about having those like warning labels too, right? Like be wary of gamification too much because it could actually go against the ethos and culture of what we have. It's good to establish it.
But you do make a great point though about the empowering nature of being able to step into something and find your own boundaries. It's like a small sandbox is like a big, it's a big world. You get to identify your means of interaction, and you gain comfort and familiarity, and then all of a sudden you're ready to go. So that maybe like a micro gated gamification structure of some sort wouldn't be so terrible. And you step out of the initial stages of it to be equal with everybody else, but the ability to step in and grow and find your own way in a little way. I mean, obviously we're not going to just have a bot say hello to people and drop them into an empty room. We call it sandbox, but it would be useful to enable people to do things on their own and self-stylize and whatnot.
I think sometimes we use gamification in place of like incentivization, and there's a fine distinction between them. And I think the objective would be to incentivize engagement, not necessarily to get people addicted to the game of collecting more, but really just to get somebody from 0 to 1, right? Like from doing nothing in our community to posting on the forum, retweeting something, participating in 5 working groups or something like that. So the gamification aspect, as I would see it, would be more like our North Star is engagement and helping advancing token engineering, right? So it's like as long as we keep those in mind, then getting people to help that cause is the goal, not necessarily the collection of whatever bounties or co-ops is another thing that we sort of riffed around a little bit. I think it's worth sharing. Is this okay if I share this? MS and I had some conversations and came up with something. This isn't it, this is like, what could it be like? But it's like, it's at day 0, day 21, 34, 55, whatever these numbers are. Maybe it's like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. But there's like, what is available to this person? How are we interacting with them? And then things that we can, what are these touch points with the members in our community at those points. And we're pretty close to where we could actually start implementing this. So I think Vi set up a way for us to export the data from the orientation data. So now we can actually just like look at when people landed in the server and see where they fit in. If they're in like, we can call these different phases. Maybe they have, they have the newcomer role on day 0. And then day 14, they lose the newcomer role, but we'd have done this one thing between now and then, which is that send the Calendly link to invite them to a one-on-one session. And then at day 14, they don't have the new role. Maybe they have a different role. Maybe there's 3 there's 3 phases of the onboarding. So just to sort of start to imagine what we can look like, I think it'd be really interesting to do a group brainstorming session around this actually. So to sort of like fill this in and have like, all the ideas, and then we can just like filter the ideas that we're going to execute on for this kind of thinking about how Communitas wants to support people coming into our community. I don't think we had the opt-in roles, but we love the opt-in roles. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that was super, super cool. And I think the biggest goal with specifically what we're talking about, Tam, is that new member to fully active in the community perspective too, right? Like just having the rails that somebody can easily get up to speed and join the community. And I think that's where like after that, you start really involving the community and there's a lot more autonomous, like I was talking about.
And I also see that as a different part of Communitas. That's community engagement, the social layer, the lounge, the like keeping people engaged in our community is like that step. But this is just the onboarding experience with ends once people are well integrated and don't need more encouragement or direction or signposts to be able to find their way to fit in or to meaningfully contribute.
Okay, so kind of throw in 2 just quick things. One is, I think that the gamification thing, another way of thinking about this might be, like in my old job, we spent a lot of time working with engaging people, helping organizations to engage people. And actually a lot of those were like volunteers, not so much employees. And one of the things that we kept running into was scale issues. So like in the beginning, there's so many people who are kind of coming in that you kind of want to lean more on automation, to kind of like to ease the load on the community members, right, who are working with the engagement. So we've been doing some of it. That's the first steps we've been doing. But then the idea is like, it's almost like it's like a pyramid. So the further up you go, the more engaged somebody gets, the more you can justify doing kind of hands-on one-on-one interactions. And so that's the thing. And this kind of gets to my second point, which is I think it's kind of useful to think about this from two perspectives. It's like there's the one perspective, which is what's this like from the subjective experience of the person who's coming in? This is like the empathy perspective. Like how do we make sure that people feel good and all of these things. And actually I think that LBS's document is kind of like that's like a great push in that direction. And actually MS, that's kind of like what you've been working on there too, And then there's this other perspective, which is the kind of the objective perspective of the organization itself. It's like, what does the organization actually need? It's like a more systemic perspective of like, what do each of the working groups need in terms of like, the qualification of people, and what are the steps that what are the amount of resources we actually have to actually deploy in the engagement process, and how much tech backup can we have, and those kinds of things. Like what are we trying to do organizationally and in terms of the mission? And it's like the merging of those two perspectives is where you're able to like engage people in the mission, but in a way that helps them to develop and actually feel like they're still human beings. So I don't know, that would be, I think it'd be interesting, and maybe that's some of the stuff when we do kind of that next wave, is thinking about this from this dualistic perspective, objective, subjective.
And I agree with Tam about the brainstorming session, especially because there's so many good ideas happening right now. So maybe, Tam, that's something we could work with Eduardo to get together. But ultimately what I want to do, because just the way my brain works, is take what happens in the brainstorming session and start to distill it into the blocks of things that we can work towards. And I think from the ideas perspective, collectively what's coming out here is way better than what just Gilly and I kind of come up with in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the collective intelligence is an astounding thing. Okay, I like the idea of the perspective. Go ahead, I'll go after you.
Okay, cool. Who's the persona that we're trying to bring in? Like, I'm coming in thinking I'm probably one of the personas, but not really hearing how it would do it. It seems like most of the things are how to grow the TE. But it almost seems like if this is like a showing point for people who want to do tokens, I have a project where I want to understand the token economics. It seems like there should be a glide path for, you have a project, here's how you get feedback, here's how you share it, and then as by virtue of someone seeing the value, then they say, oh, well, the thing I'm doing for my own token, I should contribute back to the TEC. It seems sort of potentially like this second persona, someone who has no token project, but they just like doing tokenomics in general. I think that's going to be probably smaller, and probably the way that at least a persona should be. Like, I still am struggling to figure out what to do, how to find, share, and then I got from someone who was super helpful, I don't remember the person's name, post, oh, this is actually for the academy, and so maybe this is not the persona that's being served. It's hard to tell, because when the language is, this is the Schelling point for those who are doing, any kind of economics. To me, the persona is the person who has a project and wants to design the token for their project. But when I then poke around and ask and say, well, where can I go? How can I ask? Some of the comments were back, oh no, this is really more about how do we grow the TEC community, not how to help somebody grow the project. So I think getting clarity on who is the actual persona or personas for the TEC, then from there it's a glide path. Step 1, step 2, step 3 as a on. Like, I still don't really know. Like, I'm just sort of wading my way through and like, well, I have a token presentation. Maybe somewhere I can invite people from here or not. It's very vague. Like, but to me, if I were designing this and say, okay, limited resources, what's the value of this? If the mission is Schelling point for token economics, it seems like it's a place where anybody who's like, I want to do a token or I want to participate, those are maybe the two things. If someone wants to participate in the creation of a token economics, you need the projects that someone is building a tokenomic for. And then the personas are, I am building a tokenomics project. Here's how I get feedback. Here's where I read stuff. Here's how I go through it. And then they get step 2, 3, 4, 5. And then somebody says, I don't have a project, but I want to help other people projects. That's how I learn about tokenomics. They still need to feed into the supply of tokenomic projects. It still feels like that's like the core persona, but it's, at least how I've been kind of going through, that doesn't feel like that is a persona for this.
Thanks so much for your feedback, Satchel. I really appreciated hearing it. I just want to reply to that before, Jean, sorry. It's really helpful to hear that feedback. It's the Token Engineering Commons, like the mission is to advance token engineering. It's not necessarily to, in that way, to fund projects perhaps like yours, which you said is a token.
No, I'm not saying fund it. I'm just saying somebody to say, oh, this looks good, this is not good. This is the way I would do the tokenomics. That's what I mean.
I hear you. So what I was just saying is like to fund projects, perhaps like that are either projects that are open source software or research or education, and anyone that's interested in supporting that mission is really welcome. Excited usually to participate in the TEC. For the idea about personas, it's a really good point. There's many different people who come to the TEC with many different expectations or understanding, like their where they are in the curve of their learning of Web3 makes a big difference, and how they'll be able to participate in, or which working group they'll be able to participate in, and how they'll be able to participate. And then I just want to say for feedback from Gideon, I like this idea of this duality, this multiple perspective. I guess from the perspective of what the organization needs is it's a live, active, vibrant, thriving DAO, right? And like the way that DAOs, like one of the criteria for success of a DAO is the activity of our community. So finding, like matching people with work that needs to be done, and building the most robust system that we can for the rewards for those efforts. We've looked at trying to do matching with like specific working groups, and like we've come around in our last retrospective to maybe having like an internal job board, so that each working groups could be like, we really need this kind of profile. And we have a job board for external work where anyone can drop a need that they have or a job that's outstanding. But it'd be nice for us to have something more internal too. Like, here's the working group job board, and Communitas really needs a visual designer for this, or comms really needs so that's one of the ideas of like helping communities find pieces of work and things that match their skill set as well. Wow, this was a robust conversation. Is there, Jean, it seemed like you had more to say on it. Would you like to?
I mean, I was just going to share that, when I first walked in the door, I had a similar view to Satchel in terms of, thinking that there was, personas that were kind of filled in terms of who I would see. But, just being in here for a couple of months and absorbing everybody's concept of this kind of nebulous field in the first place, because everybody has a different idea of what crypto really means. It seems like the emphasis, because these are people that are academics and like intentionally good people, I guess is the simple way to put it at heart. The focus is so much more on ethics than it is on the financial factors. Of course, the tokenomics mechanisms are produce the financial data and the governance aspects, but it's more like ensuring that there's no question of a compromised ethical culture at any point, and that's really what who the personas are that are here, not so much who has a token project, because to be honest, you know, after the ICO stuff in 2017, 2018, I was super hesitant to even talk to a person that was advocating for an ICO or any kind of self-creation token project. It just felt very quickly to hear it, because it just felt like they were doing something for scrapping other people's money. So it's really, I guess the primary factor is the ethical concern for other people. That's what really represented it is.
I just want to ask, Satchel, have you had a chance to have a one-on-one with someone yet to help answer your questions and help you find some of the answers that you're looking for?
No, there's one person in the Discord who's like been sharing stuff. I don't remember the person's. This person's also new. He said, I'm not really sure what to do here either, but here's all the links I've collected, and so it's kind of like a little bit like she's less blind than me. He or she, I don't know actually.
Have you had a chance?
Like, well, try these things.
Have you had a chance?
It's very murky.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to join the orientation call?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
The orientation call I did, yeah. And I presented my project, and I was like, well, yeah, maybe come back here, talk to, I don't know, maybe Eduardo, propose that you have a webinar, and then I came back and said, okay, why don't I just put a webinar on, and then, socialize it and have people talk about it.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I, maybe we could schedule 20 minutes today or tomorrow, and I could try to help answer some of your questions and do some of this so that we can move on with the agenda of this call. I feel like I want to make sure that you get some more information, but I also want to be respectful to other people's time and move on with the agenda. Maybe 20 minutes after this call sound okay?
Yeah, maybe that might work. Yeah, all good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, should we continue with the roles and members' lifestyle? I guess the next step is to have some sort of working session where we can brainstorm on this together. I don't know if we want to do it on this Miro board or something like it. Go ahead, Amos.
I think a session would be cool for brainstorming. I really like that recommendation you made. I was talking to Gideon really quick, and I think, Gideon, if it's okay with you, we could try to consolidate some of the materials that already exist to give a nice frame for an agenda for brainstorming. So if we just have a little bit of time to do that, then I think we could put together like a nice brainstorming session.
Cool. And I would love to be part of that, if the timing works.
Me too. Coming back to the personas we were talking about, I think there's multiple layers of personas that we're going to be eventually trying to reach. And it can be someone who's just interested to someone who wants support for their project. So I think one of the things we can do is personalize the onboarding based on which bucket people come into. I think the data we can use for it is the survey, and the second piece of data is if they come to the onboarding call, like whoever's taking the onboarding call makes notes on those people, and then from there I think we could have some form of like eventually like one-to-one conversations that like help get them more accustomed to the server. But like I think it really depends on what kind of bucket they fall into. If it's someone who's just totally new, we first want to guide them through what they need to do and what kind of knowledge they need to have before just dropping it all in them. And for someone who's been here for a while, we want to take them straight to business because that's what they're for. Right? So if someone wants to like pitch a proposal, we take them through the proposal cycle, and it's slightly different for them. It's like if someone's not new to token engineering and they've been in the space for a while, they don't really need to go through like climb a couple of flights of stairs to get onboarded. And like I think that stands with DAO people in general. They've been around so much that they can like easily, they know that it's chaos, and there's some order in the chaos, so which they will be able to like navigate through. So totally personalized onboarding sessions. Maybe we could make a flow chart out of this, like a tree that just keeps branching. I just know how complex that will get eventually.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, I think we could sort of roll it up into some buckets, right? Like they're just the main categories. We don't have to be too granular, but yeah, it's a very good point. I think that's what we aim to do with our, the 4 questions that we asked during orientation. We're like, how did you find out about us? What is your knowledge of Web3? What are your skills? How much time do you have? I feel like those 4 questions are the questions that's like, whoop, here's like personal recommendation engine. Like if you input those 4 questions, we can output a personal recommendation for anyone.
I'm loving the thoughts here, and I can't wait to do that brainstorming. And I think there will be some really good stuff there. And I'm just doing a time check for you because I'm at 48.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. All right. Well, then we'll move on for that. And MS, I think it's you that's going to take on quarterbacking the session and outreach to top. Okay. All right. Outreach to top token holders. So I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's in regards to submitting proposals. And we have 3 days left, so it's tight. And then rocking the vote would be the 2 outreaches that we want to do. So submitting proposals really happens until the 16th, so just 3 days from now. And then voting will happen between the 17th and the 21st. We've done a number of outreach to top token holders, I have to say, or to token holders. We may want to now strategically select specific people that we know are really interested and have the time in the TEC, because we've all started getting banned, or like 24-hour bans from Telegram for sending messages to too many people. But I guess the idea here is to encourage the token holders that have the most skin in the game to participate in this proposal of Commons upgrade process and eventually the vote for the runoffs. I don't really have too much else to say about that right now. The Params team is also working on this sort of in conjunction with Communitas right now. And then we will move to the guides and Gravitons. There was a conversation where we realized that Juanca was talking about the role of Gravitons and whether they would be identified, like active Gravitons would be identified, would have a role on our Discord, so that if there was a conflict, rather than somebody in our community going to the Typeform and filling it out, they can just send a DM to an active Graviton that would then facilitate the next steps through the Gravity process. And we sort of thought that we probably have some overlap between our guides and Gravitons, and wouldn't it be nice if they're like the people that are most active and engaged in our community are also Gravitons who have been sort of trained in nonviolent communication and mediation and the other cool things in the Gravity coursework. Juan Carlos, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, Tom. That on the funding proposal for Gravity, we are not going to have the Graviton as an active continued role. So what we were thinking is that, and rather we are going to have like more bounties. So what we were thinking is that it would be really cool to work together with Communitas, and I find this role of guides that can help us a lot of funneling cases into Gravitons. Like we can have the active Gravitons, but still people might find it a little bit awkward to talk to someone if they are not really close to them. So maybe what I think is that the guide can be a facilitator for people to request or to access to the services we want to provide as conflict management. And not only when people have conflict between or with other people in the community, but it can be also like some personal problem that someone is passing through, or that is affecting or their performance in the organization, or that they or that maybe the guide feel that he or she is not competent enough to handle a complex situation, and that they can request support to the Gravitons. And we have this document that is a guide for on guides, that is like the description of the role. And I just made a little comment in the end, like it can be another point of the guide of the guide role, as they are promoting all the processes and tools that we have in the DAO to promote and facilitate the access to the conflict management process that we're providing.
Cool, got it. So I'm hearing two things actually. I'm hearing one, that the guides today would be more, I would say, proactive is not the right word, but it's like make sure the community is more aware of the conflict resolution processes that we have in place. And then the second, which was I was thinking too, is that the guides actually are Gravitons. So it's sort of like a bundled role, that some of the active Gravitons can also sort of be guides. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I was also thinking that it's not the idea to have like just mediators, because that would more or less seem that the mediator is outsider from the community, but rather to have like a mediator being someone who is already part and active in another working group. And these guides that are people that are going to be like easy access people, that can have like a wider look in the community. They can act as funnels, and maybe if they feel that they are having a difficult situation, onboarding someone, or that if someone they are onboarding are expressing that they are having a difficult situation, that they can help to request the service.
So for this, the action item is just more awareness of gravity for guides.
Yeah, I think that in the document, like guides on guides, like maybe adding a little paragraph, so that we don't overlap, but rather like we collaborate between working groups, because I feel also that for Gravitons sometimes it's difficult to like be near everyone. So like the guides will be like these people who is near everyone, that can also help us to have access to this information from different sources.
What do you mean disinformation? Access to what information?
If someone is having any trouble, or if something is happening in the community.
It's kind of the funnel newcomer cases to Gravitons. That's we do that anyway, and I have both. So, okay.
Yeah.
So guides have more visibility, right? They're interacting all the time, they're present, so they have more visibility in the community and can help, what's the word I'm looking for?
Connect to Gravitons, because
Thank you.
we are also sometimes it's difficult just to hear someone, and maybe you're a guide, but you're not able to bring the empathy enough empathy that someone is requiring. So you can request or reach to a Graviton that is someone who has to be like prepared to manage those complex situations.
Cool, I got it. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for letting me talk about this in this call.
I also really like the idea of, like Jean, having our guides have Graviton training, because I think it's actually really a good skill for all of the guides in our community to have, or a good skill set, a good training to have gone through.
Yeah, and that's why I'm structuring the working group proposal to be more of like bounties, so that people in the community themselves act as Gravitons, and not like the Gravitons are just these people that do not participate in the community, but that they somehow try to have this monitoring role. So I feel that for our mutual monitoring strategy, it's better to have these small incentives on the Gravity approach.
Okay, cool. And then this is, I guess, the onboarding, the Communitas outreach. This is new members. So I guess these are the new members from the last. Oh, I had a question. I had a chat with Vi the other day in one of our things talking about, now that we've added more questions, are we actually getting less data than we were when we had those sort of simple questions? And he and I both agree that we would sort of look through that data set when we've had it. I think what would be interesting is if I go to the data itself and just see where people have come from recently. I'm not going to share the screen of my Discord only for, I guess, out of concern for privacy. But the last people who have joined, how did you find out about the TEC? Gideon Rowe, Google, Phil K, Token Engineering, YouTube, thanks to Gitcoin, talking with Edgar, that's cool. A guy mentioned CAD, and I was like, what? And he was like, CAD, and gave me a link to your website. True story. DAO rewards system assemblage through MetaGov, invited by a friend, Twitter, another Discord, Ethereum France, Twitter, Friends, Griff, Meetup on, I think that's the Ethereum France Meetup, Ethereum France presentation, have been in the ecosystem for some time, Medium article, okay. So we're seeing people are coming from many different places. And Gideon, you're here, so thank you very much for being one of the places that so many people have found us through. So we are at the top of the hour, so I think we're going to end it here for today. I want to say thanks to everyone for joining today, and maybe keep in mind our voting dates. 3 dates till we go into full-on debate and vote mode. So I hope everyone has a favorite proposal already, because we're going to debate them soon. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great day, night.
Thanks everyone. See you later.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.